Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the regular meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee on the Efficiency of Boards and Commissions. It's Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, and this meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A. I am the chair of this committee, Jennifer Chappell, and I am joined by my co-chair, Councilman Kevin Bratcher. I'm so sorry. And I'm also joined in chambers by Councilman Scott Reed and Councilman J.P. Linninger, as well as Councilman Kevin Kramer. And I assume that Councilman Winkler will be joining us soon. Sorry, Kevin Kramer. It's just he's been here a little bit longer, and so that's where that's where I wanted to go. So apologies about that. Item number 2 on our agenda today is being held at the sponsor's request, so we will not be hearing that today. And we have 4 guests with us today. We have speakers from the Domestic Violence Prevention Coordinating Council, the DVPCC, the Commission on Public Art, COPA, also the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and the Juneteenth Jubilee Commission. I just want to stress again that the goals of this committee is just so we can learn more about all of the boards and commissions that Louisville Metro has. And the reason that, and the goal is to hear as many as we can, but the reason that our first boards were selected is because we had kind of criteria and we were looking at those and we were trying to establish which ones met those criteria. So the ones that had the most check boxes, are the ones that we're going to be focusing on. And I just want to make mention that Councilman Marcus Winkler has joined us in chambers. I believe that all of these council committees that we're talking about today are under a Louisville Metro ordinance. And so that is the biggest trigger in what was the deciding factor in calling these boards and commissions before us today. No one is in trouble. We're just trying to learn more information. So I don't want anyone to feel like we're digging for anything. We just want to learn more. Unfortunately, since we have limited time, everyone will be limited to 15 minutes. And I will be setting a timer on my phone. And once that goes up, we're just going to ask you to wrap up. So the way that it's been best in the past, maybe give a presentation for 5-10 minutes, 7 if you want to call it even, and then allowing time for council members to ask questions, and then anything else we'll be sure to follow up with you. We're not trying to make any action items come out of this meeting, but at the end of this year we're really hoping that we can present a solid list of suggestions that we have for all of Louisville Metro's boards and commissions, just so we can make things obviously run more efficient. So today I'm going to ask for right now I'm going to ask for the Domestic Violence Prevention Coordinating Council to kick us off. And while they're making their way up to either microphone, yeah, you have a presentation, correct? Okay, and we'll pull that up for you. It's ready to go? Okay, great. And just for a little bit of background for my colleagues, again, the DVPCC is not under a KRS statute. It is under a local ordinance. They meet quarterly on the fourth Thursday of the month. They don't have any immediate vacancies, but they do have 36 members. And so that was another of those items that kind of brought them to our attention because they're one of the largest boards within Louisville Metro. And then I do just want to make mention that I believe that Councilman Linninger started this year as the Metro Council representative for the coordinating council. So I'll hand it over to you all and start your 15 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Faith Augustine. I serve as the director of the Criminal Justice Commission, which is an agency of Louisville Metro government, which is responsible for providing staff assistance to the Domestic Violence Prevention Coordinating Council. My role as the director of the Criminal Justice Commission is to oversee the commission staff. I also provide administrative support to our board and to the DVPCC and all of its committees. I've been with the commission for over 21 years, and prior to that, I served in a similar role at the state for the Kentucky Criminal Justice Council, which is a part of the Kentucky Justice and Public Safety Cabinet. I'm from Louisville, born and raised in Louisville, went to U of L, have a bachelor's and master's degree in justice administration. And I'll let Judge Goodwin introduce herself, and then staff, Stacey Farnham.
Good evening. My name is Judge Lori Goodwin. I serve as the Deputy Chief Judge for the Family Court Division or term here in Jefferson County. I am one of the current co-chairs for DVPCC. Unfortunately, our other co-chair, Marsha Roth, cannot be in attendance tonight. Before being appointed as the co-chair for DVPCC in 2021, I served as the Legal Aid Society representative on the Fatality Review Committee for several years. In addition to that, I also serve as the co-chair for the Domestic Violence Subcommittee for our Family Court Bar, and I serve as a board member for the Exploited Children's Help Organization. So I'm sure you guys can tell that the issues of domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse are very important to me, and so I thank you for having us here to share more information with you tonight.
Thanks, Lori. So I am Stacey Farnham, and I provide the primary staff support to the Domestic Violence Prevention Coordinating Council. I have been with Louisville Metro for a little over 20 years. 15 years of that was at Corrections as a case manager before I moved over to the Criminal Justice Commission, where I've been just a little over 5 years now.
So I'm going to start us off just by giving a brief overview of our history. Going back many years ago, almost 30 years ago, in January of 1996, the Jefferson County Fiscal Court developed an ordinance which created the Jefferson County Domestic Violence Prevention Coordinating Council. And the council was created because of the realization that domestic violence was a pervasive community problem, not a problem that could be solved by just one single agency. In 2003, the council was reauthorized when the governments of the former city of Louisville and Jefferson County merged to form Louisville Metro government. And the ordinance outlines the purpose, the membership, meetings, quorum, the duties of the council, as well as the staffing, which I said before requires the Criminal Justice Commission to provide staff assistance to the council.
Right. And so the mission of DVPCC is to improve interagency cooperation and communication in the areas of domestic violence and abuse, promote effective prevention, intervention, and treatment based upon research and data collection, improve the system responses to domestic violence and abuse to reduce incidences thereof. The council sets the priorities, establishes committees, and monitors the work of the committees and the staff. Through the systemic efforts of DVPCC and its related committees, there have been numerous programs that have been established here in Louisville. Some of these initiatives established to help with the domestic violence efforts include the creation of the Court Monitoring Center, VineLink, and the Domestic Violence Intake Center, addressing legislation, strengthening provisions related to rape, sexual assault, domestic violence, missing and exploited children, and child sexual abuse. Implementation of the lethality assessment program and hospital emergency room screening for domestic violence survivors.
And then I'll just give a little information about the membership, how that's come about. So the membership of the council is delineated in the ordinance, and it includes a total of 37 members. 27 of those members serve by virtue of office, including elected officials, agency heads within the local criminal justice system. In addition, the co-chairs, citizens at large, and agency representatives are appointed by the mayor and approved by you guys. In addition, the committee chairs serve on the council as well. So each appointed agency representative or citizen member shall serve a 3-year term with the possibility for one more reappointment for a 3-year term. A simple majority of the membership of the council constitutes a quorum for the transaction of business. There are a number of factors that are considered as it relates to the appointment of citizen members, and some of that includes demographics, geographical representation, and political party.
So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the duties of our council. One is to examine the ways in which agencies, departments, and courts in Louisville Metro respond to domestic violence and abuse in order to improve that response, improve the cooperation and coordination among all participants in the justice system who deal with domestic violence and abuse, make recommendations to the mayor, agencies, departments, and the courts and others regarding improving the response to domestic violence and abuse, examine and review legislation that relates to domestic violence and abuse and recommend appropriate action to the mayor, the president of Metro Council, and the chair of the Louisville Jefferson County Legislative Delegation. We also encourage and promote public education regarding domestic violence and abuse. Public awareness is extremely important, and one of the ways we believe that you all can assist, being of assistance to DVPCC. Sharing information amongst yourselves and sharing information throughout your districts would be a helpful way to increase public awareness of the issues relating around domestic violence and abuse.
And so I assist the council in its duties, as I mentioned before. I assist with administrative and research support, data analysis, preparing meeting agendas in partnership with our co-chairs, writing meeting summaries, which you can find on our website, collecting our annual data snapshot, which gives a great overview of domestic violence within our city, seeking grants, writing and submitting those grants, and if we are awarded, I will manage those grants. And so this is the organizational chart to assist the council in its work. As we kind of mentioned before, there are some subcommittees. Those include the Interagency Committee, the Fatality Review Committee, and the Data Committee. DVPCC, Interagency, and Data meet quarterly, and the Fatality Review Committee meets bi-monthly.
So to tell you a little bit more about these committees, so much of the work over the last 5 years by the committees has been focused on implementing recommendations from a comprehensive community assessment, which is a blueprint for improving services for victims of domestic and interpersonal violence. Of the 83 recommendations included in that assessment, the council has implemented 33 with many more in the process. The Interagency Committee was created to serve as a forum for ongoing information sharing and problem solving, to provide assistance with program research and development, and to prioritize and implement recommendations around advocacy. Projects include a domestic violence handbook, training initiatives, and et cetera. The Fatality Review Committee is tasked with reviewing local cases of domestic violence which result in homicide and or suicide, with the goal of identifying ways to improve the system and to prevent future domestic violence fatalities. By conducting a multidisciplinary and multi-agency systems review of domestic violence fatalities, the committee seeks to pinpoint areas and means by which to increase and enhance coordinated agency and community responses to domestic violence. Information shared in these meetings is confidential. The FRC produces a biennial report highlighting the review process to include systemic recommendations. And then lastly, the Data Committee is a newly formed committee. At our January DVPCC meeting, members recommended forming a data committee to help drive the council's work forward, and this committee will convene in May for their very first meeting.
And then lastly, this is just our contact information, and I'll just let you know that all of our meeting summaries, those reports like Lori mentioned, the fatality review reports, are all listed on our website, and you can find a lot of other information there. So I will let you all ask us any questions that you have.
Thank you. I served in this position or as the Metro Council representative prior to Councilman Leninger joining the board. And the meetings, it was overwhelming how many people were there. And at a board size of 36, it's really difficult to get a lot accomplished. And, you know, as you're looking over the required seats, I'm sure, and I'm not saying that there's a reason that they should, but Mayor Greenberg, the director of corrections, Chief Humphrey. I'm wondering, A, should this board be this large, and B, some of those seats, are those necessary? Because it seems, I can't imagine that they're going to the meetings and even being effective members, and these are the people that we're also trying to guide. So should they have that seat at the table? So I'm just wondering if you could speak to the board size.
Yeah, I think we have great participation in all of our meetings. A lot of people show up. So this committee, it's kind of just the high, touches. And so those lower committees are the ones that are really doing that work. And so then we're just taking it up to those DVPCC meetings and just kind of telling what those committees are doing, just letting the council guide our work. And those partnerships are invaluable. Chief Humphrey, of course, with the lethality assessment program, his department implements that. The officers are doing that at scene. Of course, the mayor attends, so he can gather information as well. So yeah, every one of those individuals are great. They participate. We work with them in different, ways and areas. We have community partners, we have stakeholders, and we just have great relationships with everyone to help move this work forward. Yeah, so corrections, we work with corrections because of the court monitoring system, the batterers intervention program. So, all of these agencies definitely have a touch in helping to prevent domestic violence.
Sure, and I do just want to.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I would just
go
like to add, I think that all those players are imperative on this council, because I don't think that many of us realize in this community how big of issue of domestic violence and sexual assault is in Louisville, and it takes a coordinated effort for all of these agencies to work together so we can come up with coordinated efforts to reduce the incidences of domestic violence and interpersonal violence in our community.
Absolutely, and I just want to point out, the president of Louisville Metro Council is supposed to be on this committee, and it seems like it's always been a representative of Metro Council. So even if we just change that language, I think that that's important because we have Councilman Leninger on that board instead of President Ackerson. But I do have two more people in the queue that I want to get to, and we only have a couple more minutes. So I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Scott Reed. Sorry, he's first.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you very much, Judge and Faith and Stacy, for coming. And this is obviously a very important board. I have two questions. Number one, how often do you guys achieve quorums?
Pretty much every meeting, I would say. Every meeting. We have a large turnout because we meet quarterly. And so we've always had a quorum present.
Okay, good. And the second question is, what is the representation percentage male versus female? Because if there's one thing that I think it's important to note is that domestic violence happens all through the spectrum, male, female, male. So what is the representation of male versus female?
As far as our committee members?
Yes, ma'am.
I would say it's fairly equal. I mean, we have a wide range, so it's not heavily female dominated or male dominated. I think we have a good mix coming from all different agencies or departments in the city. And not only that, with the new data collection committee that we have, that's not necessarily representative of the members of the committee, but to go to your point, anybody can be a victim of domestic violence, male or female.
Yeah, I think it's where men are concerned, it's a little bit of a stigma, and they don't want to come out and admit that it's happening. So that's why I think it's important that we have equal representation. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Councilman Leninger.
So first I want to say it seems that a lot of the work is happening at the committee level. Describe the size of those committee meetings. Are they roughly equal? One of them larger or smaller than 8? How many people do you have on the committees, and are you achieving mostly quorum, whatever your metrics are for those meetings to be working meetings?
Yeah, so it's dependent on each of those subcommittees that you're referring to. Fatality Review Committee is a pretty large committee. I would say probably equal to DVPCC's size. And that's just because, again, we're bringing together all those community and system partners to do a full comprehensive review of any domestic violence fatality, right? So we want to know every touch with the system from different agencies to kind of understand where those gaps were and how we can resolve those gaps. And we make recommendations with that committee, which you can see in our biennial report. Interagency is not quite as large. I would say maybe 25 individuals. And that data subcommittee, as it's getting ready to start, is pretty small. I would say right now we may have 10 people that we've identified at this point.
Okay. And then the other question I had, and this is not really germane, and I apologize to the working, but I haven't been able to attend a meeting yet. We're coming up. Something that's really top of mind right now in domestic violence and policy is how undocumented individuals, people who have, non-citizenship status are impacted. We know that that's a big problem in the community. It reduces reporting. People will hide the injuries. Are we doing anything in that regard to try to track and think about what our city's response is going to be in that area?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we mentioned is our domestic violence handbook, and that will be released here very soon. We've had it, it's in English, it's also in Spanish, and we're having it translated in 3 other languages to come out this year. And that book is just a guide to inform survivors of how to navigate the criminal justice system, and it provides resources for them. We also have individuals that serve on our board from Catholic Charities, from La Casita Center, Americana, Kentucky Refugee Ministries. So we have a great turnout from all of those agencies and great partnership with them as well to try to, we noticed the trend last year when we were reviewing our fatalities that the Latinx community, unfortunately, there was an increase in those homicides. So we definitely are reviewing those things. That's why we keep that data with the Fatality Review Committee so we can make recommendations when we see trends like that. And as well with our data subcommittee, that was something that we talked about at the January meeting was, are we tracking that data, right, with LMPD, with our system partners of that community, and how we can help them better.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
We're also not in the business of, I'll speak for myself. I am not in the business of reporting undocumented citizens who are seeking protection from domestic violence. They will not be turned away from DVIC, and they always have the option to appear virtually for court proceedings if they have that fear of actually coming to the actual courthouse.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I appreciate you all. Like I said, it goes really, really fast, and I know that some of us probably have more questions, but I think we've got a good foundational knowledge, and we'll follow up with anything else.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
our contact
Thank you.
information, so just reach out anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you all so much.
Next up, we're going to have COPA, the Commission on Public Art, and that's going to have Jessica Kincaid and I think Kristen Booker here to address us. So while they're making their way up, again, this is not a KRS, a board that's under KRS statute. This is under local ordinance. They meet every other month, and there are 13 members with no vacancies. And full disclosure, I serve on this commission. What? This is my 3rd year serving on this commission.
Hello. I am Jessica Bennett Kincaid. I am the director of Metro's Office of Arts and Creative Industries, under which the Commission on Public Art is housed. I am joined today with Commissioner Kristen Booker. The Commission on Public Art was established via Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances 32.050 to oversee the implementation of the Public Art Master Plan, review and propose public policy concerning public art, advocate for public art throughout Metro, review and develop plans for the inventory, maintenance, acquisition, deacquisition of public art owned by Louisville Metro, and review and approve grant applications for public art projects from the Louisville Public Space Art Fund. COPA is required to hold quarterly meetings at minimum, but currently meets every other month in the 444 Metro Development Building. Our membership is also delineated in the ordinance to constitute either the mayor or his designee, a Metro Council representative, an art department faculty from a local university, 2 civic or business leaders, 4 visual arts professionals, and the public art administrator, which is a non-voting member, which I serve dual roles as public art administrator. This is our current commission composition. You will notice that there are a few additional commissioners on this list than what the membership outlined on the previous slide. The ordinance does provide that the mayor may elect to appoint additional members in the civic and business leader category, as well as the visual arts category, provided that if one category is appointed, there must be also an additional member in the corresponding category. I also have COPA's vision statement listed here. We believe that public art is vital to building a dynamic and equitable city for everyone. Public art encourages dialogue across economic, social, racial, political, historical, historic and religious differences, that public art inspires and provokes the viewer, and that public art is necessary in all communities. The Commission on Public Art has a dedicated funding mechanism that is outlined also in LMCO. It is is tied to the Land Development Code in Section 5.12.2, Item 3, that pertains to outdoor amenity requirements in certain types of development. It is any retail, mixed-use, or office space or additional industrial spaces that are new developments over a certain square footprint. Are required to produce an outdoor amenity. If the developer elects not to produce that outdoor amenity, they can pay a fee at a formulaic rate commensurate with the outdoor amenity requirement for their development. We are also funded through fines collected through LMCO 131.16, which is related to vandalism, graffiti fines, etc. Since 2010, when the Public Space Art Fund was established, it has received only 2 deposits from development projects totaling $78,936.43. We have never received any funding from the fine funding mechanism. Just a brief history of the Commission. In 2010, the Public Art Master Plan was commissioned by Creative Time as a consultant. The Commission on Public Art was established in ordinance the same year. In 2015, a full-time public art administrator position was created within the Office of Advanced Planning. And in 2023, the Commission on Public Art and its staff liaison was moved to the Office of Arts and Creative Industries, which was a new office established that year. Since 2015, the Commission on Public Art has helped to produce 51 public art projects involving more than 69 artists locally. We've hosted 3 artist residencies, helped facilitate 24 exhibitions in government buildings, such as Art in City Hall here, and the Rotunda Art Program over in Metro Hall, as well as some of the regional government centers. There are over 300 artworks in the Louisville Metro Public Art Collection, and since 2022, we started a new initiative to proactively conserve our public art collection, and we have been able to work through 21 of those artworks. Additional recent projects that we have undertaken include a mapping project to document where not just the art that Metro government owns and maintains, but community projects that have been originated and may have come before COPA for different types of review. The blue dots are Metro's collection. The purple dots are community or otherwise owned artworks in public space, and the orange dots are murals. This map it's interactive, it's GPS enabled, so you can navigate to different pieces in our collection, and we have actually been able to kind of monitor which are the most frequently visited pieces of public art in our city. So we undertook that effort not just to create a community resource for people to become more aware of art in the community, but also so that we could identify where art isn't, and maybe focus our efforts in those areas. I wanted to just highlight a few of the projects that we've undertaken in recent years. This is 4th Street. We did a Poetry in the Street project. It's called Love in the Street. We also helped commission the Louisville Knot, which you've seen under the overpass between 9th and 10th Street along Main Street. And this was sort of our landmark public art event, which was a project called Connect Disconnect, which was down on the river at the terminus of 9th Street. And that driftwood orb that you see is still in place from that project. This was a project we did on the Big Four Bridge called Bike Sense Louisville by an artist named Todd Smith. And I just wanted to highlight for the committee that the resources that are available on the Commission on Public Art webpage, which is linked to the ordinance establishing the commission. It includes a link to the Public Art Master Plan, which is currently actually we're in the process of updating that. It was meant to be a 10-year guiding document. We have contracted with a firm called Designing Local, who is doing a comprehensive cultural strategic plan for the city, which will include an update to the Public Art Master Plan. We also have all of our policy and process documents, our citing guidelines, as well as a guide that we created for the community community members who might be interested in proposing public art projects that outlines all of the additional department permits that might be required either through maybe Public Works or the Department of Planning. We include our meeting schedule and our meeting minutes, as well as we put opportunities that we are, calls for artists that we are hosting, as well as others that we are aware of throughout the community. And that's the end of my presentation.
Fantastic. My question before I get to the queue, who oversees and enforces the payment in lieu? The fact that there hasn't been a payment in lieu since 2016 is puzzling, but also does that have to do with the square footage requirement, and is that something Metro Council should revisit in that ordinance?
So we actually were wondering that same question a few years ago. Full disclosure, I also served as a commissioner on public art before assuming this role 3 years ago. So I've been on both sides of the fence. I would have to double check what year we undertook that work. I think it was probably 2019. We did ask staff in the planning department to do a review of all cases that would have met that criteria to see whether they were either satisfying the outdoor amenity requirement through their development plan, or if there were potentially waivers being given, or what was the issue, to try to ascertain why our funding mechanism was not generating the support that we had hoped. It just, as it turns out, a lot of the developers are very well acquainted with the requirement to produce the outdoor public amenity. The Land Development Code also does define what would constitute a public amenity, and maybe there might be some room to be a bit more specific in that language.
Great. Definitely an action item for us. I have Councilman Reed in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the interest of time, I'm going to yield my time to Councilman Kramer.
Councilman Kramer.
Always a dangerous choice. Thank you. I have a couple questions. I'll start with, how is that full-time admin position being funded?
It is through general funds.
Metro Council's, or Metro Government's general funds?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to follow up on Councilwoman Chappell's question about the fee in lieu of. What about the fines? I mean, at least the fee in lieu, we got two. But I think I heard you say that the LMCO that it references is one that deals with vandalism and those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming if they're vandalizing either public art or public property in any way, shape, or form, mm-hmm. If there are fines involved, we should be getting those fines. Are we not enforcing this? Are we not fining people? Is the money that's coming in fines not finding its way to you? Like, can you share with me why we're not getting revenue there?
Sure, absolutely.
We know there's vandalism.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Councilman. This is actually new work that I've started to investigate pretty recently. So I'm in conversation with codes and regs to try and figure out, is that being collected, and is maybe the mechanism just not directing it towards public art, or are they maybe not able to issue those fines, or I think that the fine comes into play. Codes and regs will notify a property owner that they need to address graffiti on their property, and they give them a certain amount of time to correct it. So I'm still actively investigating that myself, and I'm happy to get back to you when I have more information.
Thank you. My fear is that they're...
Interject? Oh,
Sure, go ahead.
So sorry. Well, I was also wondering, that might also be enforcement on whether or not that public amenity was actually created, because somebody could just build their property and not do the public amenity, and then we're not getting that payment in lieu, and they also didn't provide the public amenity, and so nobody's following up with that. So that I think is something important. So when I hear enforcement, that's what the enforcement I'm thinking of. So sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I thought I heard you say, because I thought I heard you say that you guys did institute or initiate an investigation, and that you found that developers are in fact putting those in.
Correct.
So that one's not so much enforcement, but the vandalism, it sure sounds like it is. And my fear would be that codes and regs, or whoever's responsible for enforcing this, is, as you say, saying fix this, and then if they fix it, they're waiving the fines. But I wonder if we're doubling back to find out if in fact that was done. So I would just point that out as an area to be aware of. And I have two more, if I may. Actually, yeah, two more. when you look at damage that's done, not necessarily intentionally, but you know, we put benches in on Breckenridge Lane. We paid artists to put the benches in. They're really pretty. I'm always amazed what artists can pull off. Car ran off the road, banged into the bench, and it was totally destroyed. We didn't bother as a city going after the owner of the car. Insurance would have paid for that bench. Does that fall under your purview, or is that somewhere else? And if it does fall under your purview and we do go after insurance, what do you all do with the money you get?
That's also a great question. So that would be, we do have protocols in place for sort of chain of command or reporting structure, essentially, if someone is aware of damage to public art. I will go back to the mapping platform has a public comment form built into it so that people can tell us about public art in their community, or if there are issues with public art, they've noticed something's been damaged or missing, or what have you. There have been a couple of instances where, just as you described, there was a piece of public art hit by a car. My office worked with risk management actually to file an insurance claim with the driver's insurance, and we do have funds on hand, the settlement that we would have received from the insurance company, and then my office is responsible for either working with a conservator or maybe the original artist, depending on what the nature of the damage is, to get that repaired.
And can you get, and I don't need it today, but can you get us some sense of how much money we've actually collected from
I'm only aware of
risk
that.
management for these kinds of things?
I'm only off the top of my head aware of that having happened twice.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you. And then this is my last question, if I might. There's an organization called the Center for Neighborhoods. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Among the many things that they do, they have a program called the PAINT program, which does a lot of work with murals and things like that. How do you guys interact with or overlap what they do?
We collaborate quite frequently with Center for Neighborhoods, or have a history of collaborating with them quite frequently. I know that there's a mural in your district that was produced sort of in collaboration. There are a couple of other projects that they've been partners on when we've received National Endowment for the Arts, Our Town project grants. So we do coordinate with Center for Neighborhoods, and Louisville Visual Art is another local organization that does quite a few mural projects to make sure that they're aware of what the policies and protocols are. And COPA is a great resource for best practices about maintenance agreements and materials that should be used to make sure that artworks endure for the long term.
And to make sure they're consistent with our list of, this is why we exist. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Reed, you just didn't want to resurface. Okay. Fantastic. I was going to say PAINT, putting art in neighborhoods together. That is a program. I just left a CFN meeting because I'm a board member. That is not a program that is active anymore. But I think there's validity in your question still. How does COPA work with other agencies? And I think you answered that well. But really quick, can you give a plug for your April 22nd event while you've got the microphone, because our cultural arts plan is very important, and then we'll have to get to the next group.
Absolutely. So the comprehensive cultural strategic plan that the city is working through, we've been really thoroughly engaged in community info sessions, feedback, listening to the community. We will be doing an event on April 22nd from 4 to 7 p.m. at Encore, which is the old Broadway Theater, to release our initial findings of what we've heard so far, making sure we got that right, what we have heard. So I will be sure to send a newsletter or bulletin to all the Metro Council agencies to include in their own newsletters. And I want to
Thank you
thank
so very
my
much.
commissioner for being here, even though we didn't really give her a chance to speak much.
I always value what you have to say, Ms. Booker, so thank you so very much.
Glad to be here.
Of course. Well, thank you so very much, and we'll let you know if we have any follow-up questions.
Thank you.
Great job. All right, next up, we're going to have the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, if they would like to make their way up. It looks like we have the Department Designee, Allison Woolsey, and Disability and Access Coordinator, Greg Willett. This is not a board that's under KRS statute. They are only under Louisville Metro. They meet on the first Monday of every month, and they have 13 members, 2 vacancies currently, and For full transparency, Councilman Scott Reed, as well as Councilwoman Shamika Parrish-Wright, serve on this committee. Hand it over to you all.
So he is passing out some one-pagers that we put together, kind of a snapshot of our commission. My name is Allie Woosley. I am currently the Aging Services Coordinator with the Office for Aging and Disabled Citizens. That is a division of the newly named Office of Social Services, formerly Resilience and Community Services, and I'll let Greg introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Greg Willett, and I am the Disability and Access Coordinator with the Office of Aging and Disabled Citizens, and fairly new. I've been around for about 6 months. Worked in the disability community 28 and a half years for vocational rehabilitation, retired last year, and then started work here.
Perfect. So what you have in front of you is a snapshot of our commission. I am currently the commission liaison, but as Greg transitions into his role, he will take over the commission liaison position. So that's why we're both here. So a little bit about us is we were formed around 2019. That is before my time here at Metro. I've been here about 4 years. The first meeting was had in February of 2020, and we all know what happened in March of 2020. So that delayed the progress of the commission quite a bit. The commission still tried to meet, but really we've just kind of started to get a foothold with our goals and what we like to do. So who we are, our commission shall exist of 13 members. 2 of those are from Metro Council that are chosen by Metro Council President. 4 members from organizations or individuals representing people with disabilities, 1 member representing the business community, 1 member representing a regional college or university, 1 member representing rehabilitative professionals, 2 members from employment or education advocacy organizations, 2 members from the community at large. We also have ex officio members, which are non-voting members. Those are representatives or their proxies from the ADA coordinator for Louisville Metro, the director of public works, the director of housing and community development, the director of the Human Relations Commission, and the director of Metro Parks. So that does change. Some individuals do come on their own, some send a designee. A little bit about our purpose is we're really an advisory commission. We have no budget line. We exist to advise Metro Council and advise the mayor on issues involving individuals with disabilities. We also like to promote awareness to the general public of the capabilities, needs, and desires of citizens with disabilities. We serve as an advocate for accessibility issues and implementation of plans and projects to improve services for citizens with disabilities. We advise Louisville Metro departments and divisions on policy matters which affect the daily lives of people with disabilities, especially with regard to public facilities. We make recommendations when appropriate to Metro Council and the mayor. We do have 4 subcommittees that is not listed on your one-page snapshot. Our 4 subcommittees are transportation, housing, education and employment that go together, and then public spaces, events, and awareness. Those subcommittees are chaired by an appointed member, but other members of the public are allowed to be involved in those subcommittees. And I haven't already mentioned that although we have those 13 appointed members, those 5 Metro representatives, this is an open public meeting, so any individual that has a vested interest in helping individuals with disabilities in the community can attend the meetings. We do have a large public attendance at our meetings that is continuing to grow as we kind of get a foothold with our commission and we move forward. I will say that our transportation and our housing subcommittees are our most populated subcommittees. We are struggling to find a representative in that education and employment realm. Our previous subcommittee chair for that unfortunately passed away. She was also the co-chair of our commission as a whole. So that is one of our vacancies. And you'll see her in the top left corner. That's Donna Fox. She passed away 2 months ago. Huge loss in our community. So some highlights from our commission, things that we have done in the past. We have had several free community viewings of the documentary Crip Camp. If you're unfamiliar with the documentary, I recommend that you watch it at least once. It follows a group of individuals from in the 1970s at a camp called Gen Ed, which was a camp for individuals with disabilities, which was very rare in the 70s. These individuals became friends, and they eventually would become advocates in the community, and they eventually were part of the groups that were involved in the 504 sit-ins and what became the Americans with Disabilities Act. So they were vital in the passing of that act, and so it's a really great documentary. We have shown that 2 times publicly, once at the Southwest Regional Library, once at Actors Theater, thanks to donations from some of our community partners and a generous offer from Actors Theater to give us a nice price to host that event in their facility. We have also hosted a fair housing symposium at one of the regional libraries. We have had strategic discussions with TARC. They come pretty often to give us updates and allow us to voice our concerns, as several individuals on our commission utilize TARC for their transportation. We have provided letters of input and recommendations for improving access to Cherokee Park. And we are continuing ongoing communications with JCPS regarding accessible playgrounds for their students. So those are just a few of our highlights. Again, we do all this without a budget line, without funding. We rely on our community partners, and our group is only growing. And, we're simple. We haven't existed that long. Like I said, we're working to gain our foothold and really make an impact. I think we've already done that. But we're happy to take questions and give more detail or specifics if you have it.
Thank you so very much. Councilman Reed?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I have served on this committee since its inception. And I will say that, to echo what Allison said, we had a hard time in the beginning because it couldn't have been formed at the worst possible time. But I do think that over the past year to year and a half, it's really started to gain momentum. We meet regularly. We, most of the time, achieve quorum. The past 2 meetings, we've had representatives in from TARC to discuss TARC 3, which is essential, vital to the disability community, disabled community. And we also had JCPS in, which is something that I've been involved with, to talk to them about ADA compliant playground equipment that, as far as I can tell, for the most part, Metro government through the individual council offices funded. So we're awaiting a study, a report back from JCPS. The representative made the comment that he didn't believe that was the case. Putting the pedal to the metal here, and I asked him to come up with some data to support it. I'm not sure that I believe him. So we asked for that about 2 months ago. I'm still waiting, but I think that's critical because I believe that every playground in every school should have ADA compliant equipment that is funded by JCPS because they have a budget of $1.8 billion. We have a Metro budget of $1 billion. So this committee is doing great work. I wouldn't change a thing. The openings, the vacancies, I think will be filled relatively quickly. And the people that are on this committee are dedicated. These meetings are ran efficiently. So I'm in full support. I'm proud to serve with it. Thank you.
Thank you. And for transparency too, the other vacancy was actually Greg's vacancy. He, when in his role at Voc Rehab, he served on the commission when he retired, and then eventually came to us. That vacancy is open, so we are working with an individual from that organization who has put in an application and going through the process to make our recommendation because we do have other applications in the queue for us to review. So.
And I wanted to add that under Mayor Fisher, we had the Mayor's Roundtable, and I was a part of that committee, and that kind of was a precursor to this. This is more, like you said, we're meeting regularly, we're getting on these things, whereas the Roundtable might have been quarterly some years, and then other years it was once a year. So this is definitely getting that point across a lot faster. Obviously I have a disability, but long ago, when I first started working, I realized real quickly that people with disabilities aren't always the best advocates for themselves. Those things that led to ADA kind of culminated over years of people getting angrier and angrier. And hopefully through advocacy, we don't have to get to that level to promote change. So that's kind of my addition to what's been said.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Linear.
Yeah, so it looks like, from photos and what you've described, you have a lot of community interest and engagement with your work, and that's great. Do you find that that community engagement reflects the diversity of the city? Are you bringing people in and hearing from members of the public who are, across every area of Louisville?
Yes and no. So we work very hard on the back end as the commission liaisons to make sure our board is as varied as possible in their council district, their gender, their race, and their political party. Sometimes we can only go based on what the applications we have for those appointed members. I think our community presence is a little stronger in some of that diversity. But what I will say is there are pockets of the disabled community that we are struggling to connect with, specifically the deaf and hard of hearing community has lost a little bit of trust with the city of Louisville with the lack of representation of interpreters at most public events. We tried to make that connection. We had a few individuals come, but the question was raised. I've told you before, we do not have a budget line. Who pays for interpreters? They are workers. They are there to work, and they should be paid accordingly. So the question of who covers the cost of those interpreters was brought up. We made our best attempt to have interpreters there, and we're still navigating that process of, do we get a budget eventually to have an interpreter there every time no matter what? Do we ask for a request for interpreter? So I will say that I do think we are well represented in the city, but I know that there are subgroups of the disabled community that we are struggling to connect with, and I hope to mend those bonds and be the catalyst for getting their trust back. But we started it. It wasn't that they were dissatisfied, but they felt like their energy could be put somewhere else. We hope to get them back.
That's great information. Thank you.
It is great, and especially as we're embarking on the Dot Museum, and we've got the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Publishing House. It seems like that's a community that we should certainly try to rope back in. But thank you for that insight. I completely understand.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and I think you all present to us very often. I think your members come in and speak to council, so I know that you have a very active presence, and I thank you all for that.
Yeah, some of our members are very well known in the community and have been in the disabled community for a long time. And I will put a shameless plug out. We are hosting another Crip Camp viewing for free at the Highview Arts Center this Saturday at noon. Free and open to the public. Greg is taking RSVPs through his line, which is listed at the bottom. Encourage your if you need the flyer for that, you can encourage your constituents in your district to attend for free. Again, very moving documentary.
Yeah, and we have discussion afterwards to kind of
panel discussion.
Bring it all together and talk about, how much has changed, how much is the same, where do our battles need to be now?
Yep.
So it's thought-provoking for sure.
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely. And if you want to send that out to all the council members or even the clerk, and they'll make sure that we get that, and we can disperse that with our channels.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you all so very much. Thank you. And I hope that it was easy to get into City Hall today. If not, we'll take those recommendations.
Not so much, but
Yeah,
we got here.
that's what I was afraid of. Next up, we'll have the Juneteenth Jubilee Commission, and thank you for everyone for sticking in there. It'll be our last one of the evening, and then after this, I'll just ask my colleagues how we want to move forward with our next meeting. But a little overview while they're making their way up. We're going to have the department designee, Dr. Vanessa McPhail, and a board member join us. They are not under KRS statute. They are under local ordinance. They meet on the second Wednesday of every month. They have 15 members, up to 15 members, and they have 2 vacancies on the board currently. And this one is one of the few that gets money from the budget. And so I believe last year in the budget, the Juneteenth Jubilee Commission was given $10,000. So I'll hand it over to you all. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Dr. Vanessa McPhail. Like she said, thank you for inviting us. I was appointed to Metro government in August. Prior to that, I was with Jefferson County Public Schools for over 20 years. I am the executive director for the Office of Equity, and I have here today with me Mr. Al Cornish, who is our secretary, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Good evening. I'm very glad to be here. My name again is Al Cornish, and I am one of the original commissioners that was appointed by Mayor Greg Fisher, and I was reappointed by our current mayor. I have served as the vice chair. I'm the original vice chair of the commission. I've served as treasurer of the commission and currently serve as secretary of the commission.
So we just have a slide presentation to give you a quick overview of pretty much the nuts and bolts of the Juneteenth Jubilee Commission.
I'll get that up there in just one moment.
Okay. That's okay. Okay. So first, I wanted to start off with what is Juneteenth. Juneteenth is, of course, the Emancipation Day or Freedom Day, and it commemorates the day on June the 19th, 1965, when General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced that all enslaved people were to be freed. This came 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued and marked a significant turning point in the fight for freedom and equality. A little bit of history regarding the commission. Juneteenth is the oldest holiday commemorating the final communication to end slavery in the United States. The first festival originated in Louisville in 2020, and then it was elevated in 2020 also during the civil unrest. The inaugural Juneteenth Commission was established February 1st, 2021 by the executive order, and then it was officially recognized by the ordinance in February 17th, 2022, and all of this can be found on our Juneteenth Jubilee website. The mission of our board is to facilitate the creation of an annual series of educational, cultural, and community-wide events for the purpose of increasing community awareness of the significance of Juneteenth. The following documents display our ordinance as well as our bylaws, which drive the work that we do and basically is our North Star. Member qualifications. We are a 15-member board, and we have to have members in the following categories: the field of education, financial community, field of public health, arts community, civic and business community, media industry, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as of right now, we have all of those categories represented. The ex officio members consist of myself as the mayor's designee, a member of Metro Council appointed by the president of the council, which is Dr. Paula McCraney, and then the president of the Waterfront Development Corporation, which is Ms. Deborah Belinsky. Our terms of appointment, they are what we call staggered. So 1/3 of the members shall be appointed to serve a term of 1 year, then 1/3 of the members shall be appointed to serve a 2-year term, and then lastly, 1/3 of the members shall be appointed to serve a term of 3 years. After the expiration of an initial term, all subsequent terms shall be for the terms of 3 years. Our board meets the second Wednesday of every month virtually from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. on a WebEx webinar. The executive board consists of Ms. Carol Jones-Clay, which is our board chair, our vice chair, Dr. Shori Durrett, our secretary, Mr. Al Cornish, and our treasurer, Dr. Kofi Abusi. To the side, you'll see our remaining meeting dates, which are also listed on our website. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Al Cornish to announce our 2 upcoming events.
Thank you, Dr. McVeigh. We have this year planned 2, which we believe are very exciting events. The first is the Kentucky Opera Amplifies Songs of Justice. It's presented in collaboration with the Metro Louisville Juneteenth Jubilee Commission. The event will be held on June 19th at 7:00 p.m. at the Kentucky Opera Center for Cultural Health. And the great thing about it, the admission is free to anyone who'd like to attend. The other event is Agape Day, and it is our day of giving back to the Metro community, because we at the commission say that agape is the highest form of love, and that is charity. We work directly with the Divine Nine, which is the local Black Greek fraternities and sororities, and we partner with Dare to Care to deliver food throughout the community. This year's event will be on June the 20th, 2025 at 7:30 a.m. And we usually, by about 10:30, we're on our way to deliver to families all over Metro Louisville. And it's held at the Dare to Care Food Bank Distribution Warehouse.
That concludes our presentation for today, and that's our contact information. Our website is up to date with our agendas and our meeting minutes, and we'll turn it over for questions.
I do want to make a mention that the Juneteenth website on the LouisvilleKY.gov looks to be updated. However, in Granicus, it is not updated. For example, Dr. Paula McCraney is not listed in Granicus, and so there's just those housekeeping inconsistencies that we're also looking to make up. So we'll need to chat about that. But
Can you repeat that again? In Granicus?
Yes. In Granicus, 2 of the members are missing from that list.
We will correct that.
Sure. We'll connect you with who can correct that for you. But your website is up to date, it looks like, so no qualms there. Councilman Leninger.
So there are the 15 statutory voting members, the 3 ex officio members, and up to 6 additional voting members appointed by the mayor. What is the current size? Do you have the additional members, or?
So currently, we are at 14 members, and if you count myself, that'll be 15. And Althea is working with 4 people who have applied and are going through the process. So we have 4 that will be coming soon.
Okay. And then what kind of attendance do you usually see?
We always have a quorum, and we typically have very good attendance.
Good. Thank you.
Councilman Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Councilman Leininger asked my question, which was how often do you achieve a quorum, and you just answered that, so that's very good. I think that this is a great commission, and to be made aware and make people aware of this vitally important holiday. I think that since I've been on council, I've learned quite a bit more about it, and I've learned how important it is to educate the public. So whatever you can do, I think is great. Whatever we can do to help you, I think is fantastic. So thank you.
In looking at your $10,000 budget, can you kind of give a breakdown of how that money is used and what events? Because as I understand it, it's a week-long event. And so how is that money used?
So, like Al Cornish said, we have 2 events this year, and it'll be the Amplify as well as Agape Day. So that $10,000 goes towards those 2 events. And this year, because June 19th we're going to actually celebrate Amplify on the holiday, we will have a bit of a higher cost with the Kentucky Opera, but the $10,000 the majority will go to the Kentucky Opera, and then a little bit of it goes to Agape Day. We have T-shirts, and we pay for the snacks there, but the bulk of the money goes to the Kentucky Opera.
Fantastic, thank you. And I know that you all do, but just make sure that we get that information so we can share it on our social channels and in our newsletters.
Sure, I'll be happy to send the 2 flyers.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, committee members, for our next meeting, which will be in 3 weeks. We're going to have the mayor's budget address next week at our council meeting. Then we're going to be off for a week because of Derby, and then we will be meeting that following week. So would we like to look at our list? I think that we had 11 boards that were under Louisville Metro Code of ordinances. Do we want to invite those remaining groups and then start looking at assembling the next? All right, great. Well, then I will assemble that and send it out to you all for approval, and then we will meet again in May. All right. Of course.
Motion
Thank
to
you all
adjourn.
so much. Motion to adjourn. Accepted.